What's up, guys? I need a refill. So in the previous video we talked about handheld lights and kind of where I'm at on those these days. But some folks have asked in the past why they don't see weapon lights on some of my rifles. So I wanted to segue off the other video on the handheld lights and kind of jump into the weapon mounted lights and what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and what my thoughts are. So again, starting out, everything I'm about to cover is in the vein of the armed prepared citizen. Not military, not law enforcement. The armed prepared citizen, and the two different contexts for us to use it is going to be in an everyday normal grid up scenario, and then a royal craptastic has hit the fan grid down type scenario. Okay, so in those two contexts, got an itch. My primary go-to gun right here has got a older single cell Surefire Scout light. Now you'll notice, contrary to a lot of people, I'm still using the factory thumb screw mount, right? And there's reasons why I do that and why I like this light in this configuration. So for a home defense gun, as you heard me say in the other video, contrary to a lot of people, I don't buy into the cool kid position of having to have all the lumens. I want enough light to identify a target and determine if it's a threat and get my sights on it and make accurate hits. That's it. And I don't have to have all the lumens to do that. You can do that effective with a lot less light than what some people would have you think. It doesn't mean that I'm not saying you shouldn't use whatever super bright surface of the sun lights you got. If it works for you, knock it out. Folks have asked what I'm doing and why. I'm telling you why. So, the reason I'm using the thumb screw mount is because on most of my other guns, somewhere on them, usually in the same position, I always have a little short piece of Picatinny rail mounted on the handguard. The thumb screw on this allows me to take this off and move it from gun to gun as I need to. For home defense, it stays on this one, stays by the bedside, and I'm good to go. If I needed to grab one of my other guns and go do something, it's obviously not going to be a quick situation, or else I would grab this one if I needed something immediately in a hurry, in which case I can take this off and move it to one of the other guns. I like that flexibility so that I don't have to have a dozen different lights. Financially, it just works for me. Now, that's grid up every day. Let's talk about grid down. Craptastic stuff has hit the fan and is all over the place. I'm not going to be using a flashlight very much in that kind of scenario. And here's why. It's very different in a home defense scenario versus that kind of scenario. I'm not worried in a grid up home defense scenario about anybody knowing that I'm in my house. My porch lights are on. I might even have interior lights on. It's nothing out of the ordinary to know there's somebody here. My neighbors are all going to expect there to be somebody here. It's not a concern that I'm here and there's light escaping from my windows if I'm using a bright flashlight. In a grid down situation, it's highly probable that I won't want people to know I'm in a building or a house or structure, especially if it's one that's not my own dwelling. If I'm having to work with my group and do security patrols around a neighborhood, or even more out in the woods or whatever, I'm not walking around using a light. Okay, that's going to be very, very limited in when I use one and what I do. In those situations, I'm actually going to take this light off and keep it in a pouch on my gear. if I've got to stop and go, if we got to go in a building, before we go in that building, we're going to have a plan, because it's going to be a real specific set of circumstances of why we're even going to go into a place. In which case, I can take the light out of my gear and put it on my gun. That way I usually have it off. It's less bulk and weight to worry about toting around, less of a snag hazard, and I don't have to worry about accidental light discharges. Not that that's a big probability anyway, but just reducing the opportunity. With the thumb screw, I can put it in my gear. When I want it, boom, put it on, tighten it down. It takes all of 2 seconds to do. And it doesn't matter what gun I've got with me, I can move from gun to gun. So that will give me the opportunity to put it on before we go in any kind of a structure. Now again, that's going to be very limited, and wherever we are at, I want to minimize the amount of light that's bleeding out of that structure. If you guys have never been in an area where there is no ambient light or no functional light from any other buildings, street lights, etc., and it's truly dark, it does not take a lot of light to become very noticeable, very easily, very quickly from a fairly significant distance. Which is why I'm all for minimizing my light. I want just enough to navigate with, because that's primarily what I'm going to be doing with it. And if I can navigate with it, then I can most likely see and identify a potential threat. Now, potential threats in a grid down situation are going to be totally different than a threat right now. Well, let me rephrase that. I shouldn't say totally different. They have the potential to be significantly different, let's put it that way. Which is why, leading forward, on this particular gun, I'm a huge fan of this little light right here. And I believe this one is from Mission First Tactical. And all it is a little small light that uses a 2032 watch battery. Coincidentally, the same battery as my optics. Way to go, Primary Arms. And it gives me an excellent amount of function in a grid down scenario. So let's throw up a hypothetical situation. I'm in a bug out, or more likely a get home scenario, and I've got to stop and find a place to lay up for the night, but I need to check it and make sure it's okay and safe for me to be in it. In a grid down situation, I don't want 5,000 lumens spilling out from every corner of the structure that I'm trying to check out. This, and I also don't want to ruin my night vision. These, once they're adjusted to the dark. Well, this gives me a single red LED light. It gives me a double power red LED light, or it gives me 2 white LED lights. All 3 of those are more than capable of letting me navigate through a structure in the dark. They're more than capable of letting me see a threat, identify a threat, and even see their hands if they are an actual threat. You can easily identify a full person, their face, hands, the whole 9 yards, once your eyes are adjusted to the dark using that light. Even the white LED light doesn't provide enough that it really significantly will spill out of a structure. The red light, even less so. It's very hard to see that red light when you're moving around inside of a house. There's just no light to go bouncing off the walls and stuff and leak out of windows and doors and that sort of thing. It's also a polymer. It's waterproof, so it's really lightweight. It's really compact. Doesn't add a lot to the gun, and it's right where I can activate it and do what I need to do with it. I'm probably going to pick up more of these and put them on a couple of other guns just to have, and then I can still swap this one around if I need to. That's pretty much the extent of my lighting, guys. And yes, before anybody asks, I have used this light on a different couple of other guns before I got this one, and have done multiple CQB classes with it indoors and had zero issue lighting up, identifying, and engaging targets inside. So there's not really a reason in my book for me to have all the lumens. Your mileage may vary. You do what you got to do and what's right for you. But for some of you that just might be getting started, I just want to give you some options and some stuff to keep in mind. Now, if you've watched my other video, you know that this little Streamlight, little handheld one, is my new go-to everyday light that I absolutely love for all the reasons I mentioned in that video. Well, Streamlight also makes a weapon mountable version very, very similar to this Surefire for about half the cost, which I am very interested in potentially checking out and doing a video on to you guys. I'm going to have to, I got it bookmarked on Amazon. I just got to have the funds to go get it. So somebody needs to go get some links from me and buy some stuff so I can earn a little money to get that other light with and show you. Because all the reason I just mentioned about lights, what I like about this one is the high setting, the low setting. You got the two different brightness settings for better battery life and less light splash. The weapon mounted one has the exact same features. And I really like that capability of having the high beam and the low beam. The low beam is going to let me use it a lot more effectively for navigation, preserve battery life, and not put off as big a light signature. So maybe that's some points that some of you hadn't thought about before. Maybe it's if you're just new getting into this stuff. I know it's just like everything else. Lighting can be overwhelming. It's crazy what the lighting world is like as far as weapons lights, handheld lights, all that. If you're an experienced guy and you've already got setups that work for you, great. Rock on with it. Knock yourself out. Just make sure you go train with it, and also train with it in realistic contexts of both grid up and grid down. And think about the big picture here. Don't get tunnel visioned on, you know, the flashy cool stuff of just coming down the hallway in your house and you hear the bump in the night and you hit the button on your light and buddy, you're just like surface of the sun. You're melting the guy's face off down the hallway as you light him up. I can still be effective with a lot less light in my experience. So take care, guys. Get out there and train. Got to do it. Got to do it now. Can't wait. Waiting's over. Stay safe. I'll see you in another one.